All right, ladies and gentlemen, would you believe it is the last session of the day at the Grow stage, and one that I find very interesting. I mean, the title is, what is it? The Future of Fundraising. My alt title is VCing Ain't Easy. We're going to talk about the future of fundraising, and I just asked Egita, who is leading this panel, will revenue-based financing be addressed? And she said yes. It's a topic that has exploded over the past, I don't know, 9 months, about a year. Come on, Egita, come on up here. Bring your panel up. I, for one, am taking notes on how I can raise my own fund very soon. Take it away.
Thank you, Dan. It's so nice. We are the last panel, and then so we have an opportunity to close with a boom or a bang, how you say. But let's kick off with the introductions. I think Dan did a very well introduction of the panel, so you know the topic. But maybe let's introduce the panelists, because they are actually the experts here. So who wants to start? Kirsty?
Sure. Hi, Kirsty Grant. I'm Chief Investment Officer at Seedrs. We're an investment platform. You probably most likely know us for the equity crowdfunding piece. So enabling founders to raise capital from their community and our community. But on top of that, we've built a number of sort of investment marketplace, private equity investment tools for investors from sort of the secondary market, portfolio tools, and now also allowing access into venture capital funds as well. So sort of just using technology to essentially open up the asset class to a broader range of people.
Cool. Max Fleitmann, I'm the founding partner of Wizard Ventures, and over the last 10 years I have gone full cycle from being a founder, then full-time investor, VC, now turning back to the founder side. And I'm building products for founders and VCs, and very active angel investor, so I would describe myself as an operator investor now, and this will also be part of this panel today.
Thanks. So hi, I'm Christian. I'm a partner at Riverside Acceleration Capital. We are an international venture capital company with offices in New York, San Francisco, and Cologne in Germany. We invest in software companies. We've done so in 50 companies already. And we're a bit different from other VCs because we invest with two different kinds of capital. One is the classic traditional equity venture capital, and one is a special form of revenue-based financing or non-dilutive investment. And that enables us to invest the right kind of capital at the right time, which all of you founders can probably relate to, as companies are in different stages and have different needs at different point in time. And the traditional VC is not always the best way to do it. So, you know, we want to cater to the need of the company with the way that we fund.
That's wonderful. And here, Christian will talk about as Dan promised, about the revenue-based financing. So we will deliver on his promises. But before, I want to ask another question as a kind of warm-up question. Because when I was also thinking about the panel, about future of fundraising, and honestly, to me, it was like, this is like I'm sort of like a witch trying to look into the crystal ball and understanding what is going to happen, because I think there are already proven fact that in the last couple of years things can change by no one really expecting the changes. So before we go into maybe the future, I wanted to kind of check in and ask the question to you about the current status, kind of look where we are at the moment and what already has been changing. Because for me, like I work in an accelerator investor, I see that the last years actually unlocked numerous opportunities that honestly were not there before, let's say, 3 years. Everything is growing so fast. Geography is becoming more like a term, but not really, doesn't really, I guess, it unlocked different geographies that we didn't have before. You remember always in the panels before, it was startups, please look at the investors that are close by to you, because that's where they want to invest. So this is my question, was my thinking process, so I wanted to ask you as well. So how do you see the current situation compared to maybe a couple of years ago? What has already changed? What have been the trends? And I know all three of you have been working, you're sort of like a trailblazers in the industry as well, so you're not going the traditional way. You're coming up also already with new things. do we start with the revenue-based financing?
No, I wouldn't actually start with revenue-based financing. I think, and I also would not want to talk about any macroeconomic cycles, right? Because I've been an investor for 15 years now, and things are going up, things are going down. Sometimes, there's more cash in the market, sometimes there's less cash in the market. But there is one specific thing that has actually changed over the past 5 years, I would say, and that is when I was beginning as a VC in 2007. There was just really one kind of capital, right? And that was just equity venture capital, right? So either you got money from a VC or you didn't, and then what, right? Then you would have had to search for something else really, or like find a total alternative. And I would say so that was very black and white. But in the meantime, over the past 5 years specifically, so many forms of funding have been added. Right? Be it venture debt, be it asset-backed finance, be it revenue-based financing, which has actually by now turned into 3 different forms of revenue-based financing. So actually it's +3 there without getting into the details, seeing the clock running. But the point is really that as of today, we have like 7, 8, maybe 10 different kinds of capital. And I think that opens a tremendous opportunity for founders to get the right kind of capital at the right point in time. That's really, really important. And more specifically, what I mean by that is that you founders, have to think about the use case of the money that you need right now. It's not just about how much do I need, but also what is it for? The use case. Is it for working capital? Is it for product? Is it for whatever? And then there might be a very specific form of funding that would suit you. And that, I think, is a true revolution that has not been there before. And I think that has not really sunk into everybody's head.
No, for sure. I think there's a lot of investment opportunities and types kind of investment in the market. And that kind of brings me, I guess, to you, Kirsty, as well, because I think was Seedrs one of the first crowdfunding platforms kind of opening up this space?
Yep, first regulated equity crowdfunding platform in the world, as far as we know. But yeah, completely echo Christian's views that there's now sort of this plethora of capital sources. And while the macro trends might not be that interesting because they're cyclical, they have driven other trends. And I think what we've sort of seen over the last 3 to 5 years is, we all know private markets have been awash with capital. There's so much venture funding available. There's so many different sources and different ways that companies can raise funds. And you've sort of seen this, like, deployment of capital has become an almost competitive sport in that time. And that has driven, I think, a few trends because it's sort of driven trends towards efficiency, efficient ways of raising capital, speed, trying to raise from different sources. And it's made, you've seen the likes of, sort of Tiger and the other sort of crossover investors come in, you hear the stories, they do 24 hours of due diligence and write this huge check. And it puts a lot of pressure on the sort of old venture capital business model, I think, of it being very relationship driven. It's this long-term relationship. And then a very high-touch way of managing your portfolio. And that's almost become a little bit unfashionable in the last few years as you've seen this trend towards, can we do this algorithmically? Can we at least screen algorithmically? Can we get sort of somehow passive exposure to this asset class and a low-touch sort of get out of the founder's way type model of managing the portfolio? So I think that's probably what I've seen, and we're part of driving that, I think, in that we're a relatively passive shareholder on cap tables. But what will be interesting, I think, is as this downturn happens, will people still favour that, or will people move more back towards the very careful approach of the VC and liking that kind of high-touch model?
Going to the safety.
Yeah, exactly. You hear words like caution, and you wonder, you actually want your venture capitalists to turn up at the board meetings and eat the muffins. Yeah. Yeah.
I wonder how you think of this, because you have been also on the founder side, on the investor side, and now you're combining both.
Yeah, right. I think there are 2 really big trends that I saw over the last years. So the first one is obviously around this having someone active on the cap table. So the stuff that I see a lot is operator investors that are pooling together their capital and then invest in some kind of like early stage companies. And I see a lot of founders who prefer that kind of capital because they know they can not only get cash from them, but they can also get intros, get some of their minds and really use it to grow the business in a quicker way. And the second thing that I saw over the last years is all around global investing. So I don't know, 5 or 10 years back, it was really, really hard to invest cross-border, and so the VCs were only like tapping into the local ecosystems. But now, like I personally have made investments over the last 2 years in 15 companies all around, from India to Brazil to the US to Germany, and this is like insane. And it is also a huge competition, I guess, because everyone is looking for these good deals globally now, and the really, really good founders can always like decide who they want to have on their cap table. And this can be either like VCs, this can be other forms of financing, or this can be like angel investors, operator investors, and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. And that actually brings me to kind of next question, because it seems that there's a lot of different types of investment, different like cross-border investing, crowdfunding, revenue-based financing. How, and there's of course also, you know, the most popular topic I think also for today, the crypto and those investments. How do you see, let's say, in the future, so kind of moving also now to the future, how do you see the founders or maybe the investors themselves? Do you think more of them as collaborating opportunities? Imagining if the founder is raising capital for the company. I think previously it was either like, you know, you're mixing VCs with the angels, but you avoid mixing anything else, maybe crowdfunding. But from my experience, I also have a company that has raised money from us, but they're now also thinking about doing the DAO or crypto investments. How do you feel? Is it going to be more like collaboration between these types of investments? Or maybe there will just be one that will kind of dominate in the next couple of years.
Yeah,
I would say.
Definitely no one's going to be dominating, seriously. But I think it's not going to be all at the same time. I'm a strong believer that it's one after the other, depending of the stage the company's in. And we see that actually in our portfolio. So we have, of the 50 companies that we have invested in, quite a lot, I think it's like 15% or so, have first taken revenue-based financing for us in an earlier stage, right? Not too early, because you have to have revenues in order to give a revenue share, but you know, it was an earlier stage, and they took some revenue-based financing from us, a couple of million, and then they grew into a phase where they could actually more stomach and more efficiently use a Series B round or whatever, right? And then, you know, we were able to participate with equity in that situation, basically doubling down also on the sense of the company. And I see that taking place more and more. And I think that's the future.
I see this like massive opportunity in combining all of these like forms of financing, and I would also always like do it in the earliest stages. So when I was first raising money around like 8-9 years ago, everyone told me it's really important to only have really few investors on your cap table, because they need all this like reporting and all of that stuff. And now it's amazing that I can get as many investors on my cap table as I want, because I have like infrastructure products like Vauban or Seedrs or anything, and I see it in a way that I would always try to have like my whole like finance need as some kind of like total allocation, and I would try to divide it up into several parts. So for example, if I'm raising 10 million, I can take 5 million from VCs, I can take 3 million from the crowd and another 2 from operator investors, and then I can really use my cap table and leverage that, because I don't see a lot of founders doing that. So I would say like 99% of the founders are not really using their cap table, and this is so powerful.
Kirsty, anything to add? Oppose?
No, preaching to the converted, absolutely. I mean, over 60% of the deals that we fundraise for, we would be co-investing, usually alongside some maybe angel groups at the earlier stage, and venture capital or other institutional funds later on. And I think you're quite right. It's just about matching the funding source for the purpose and what you want to get out of it. And a lot of the time, venture capitalists will say to their portfolio now, you know, allocate some of your round for the crowd because of the benefits that has in bringing a company's customers into that journey and the stickiness that can provide.
No, I would maybe if I may add, I would fully agree to that, although with a little caveat that it really depends on the company, right? So for some companies, that makes sense what you said, right? Use your cap table as you put it. I think that's a very nice way of saying it, but it also depends on the model of the company and on the potential of the company, because you always have to be aware that all these different kinds of capital always stem from different business models that the investor has, and the business model of the investor determines how he's going to act in the future and where he will try to drive the company, that you're in charge of. And so you also have to make sure that what you have there in your company and its potential goes hand in hand with the form of funding and with all the interests around you. So it's going to be just a very complex game that you'll be playing in the future, and it's not as easy as it was. Not just VC and done, but it's going to be very complex, and you will have to devote some time to it.
Yeah. But I wish there would be also more transparency about the different business models of investors, because I don't think that all founders that are taking money from traditional VCs know what that means. Because in the end, like, these VCs are looking for outlier companies, and they are pushing you really, really hard to grow as quickly as possible, or get broke or something. But I think, like, for a lot of founders, they would be better off with other financing options, to be honest.
Yes.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. That cost of the deployment for venture capital is so high that they have to be looking at that outsized return profile. And that's what's so interesting, what I think Christian's doing in changing the return profile you're expecting from a company through that revenue financing. But that alignment of interests is so important. But as all of these different types of funding open up, what does a founder do? You've got this huge, how do you, it should not be a founder's full-time job to be fundraising, and so often these days it is. They do have a business to run. So, what's the answer to that? How do we kind of marketplace this so that someone can go and find all of the sources available to them and work out what matches their needs the best?
Yeah, that's the downside. It's going to get harder. That's definitely the downside.
But I'm super happy you actually gone to this kind of, not conclusion, but that topic, because I was listening earlier upstairs or in the other building. There was a conversation with Christo Carmen from Wise, and there was, of course, the story and everything else, but one thing that stuck to me was that he said that at early stage we understood to fight with the market, we actually need to become a sustainable and profitable company, which kind of brings, again, it's the purpose and everything else, and I kind of wanted to here, well, you already started talking, but maybe digging even deeper, we're talking about the future of fundraising. So what you also as investors would be, is that something that you are looking for in the future from companies as well? Because I feel sometimes revenue and sustainability of a business is actually not the thing that investors sometimes look at the moment. You can also see, for example, all the valuations that are growing, or let's say companies that have huge valuations are thinking about the future. So where you go next? So how do you see this maybe changing? Also, are there stricter, rules on investing as well? You need to have the MRR or no investment. And I think in your case, that's where you want to see them. It's not about fundraising; it's actually about the revenue.
Well, with revenue-based financing, that is true, right? But again, coming to the point, it depending on what kind of capital I would use, it totally changes the way that I look at the company. If I use equity, then I want the company with the super high potential, that can fivefold my money or so, right? And if I invest with revenue-based financing, then I don't care whether the company even finds an exit, right? At least in the first place, because I retrieve my return as an investor from the revenues. So I would be much more interested in having a very sustainable business model, that is not going, head over heels crazy in the market just in order to grow by 300%. No, maybe with that thing, I would prefer a lower burn rate and a lower growth. Maybe not.
Yeah. How I think about it is in a way that fundraising is just this kind of tool that you can use to finance, I don't know, people in your business, but also operations at the beginning. And at some point, you have to create a sustainable company. And also from a founder perspective, it takes a lot of your time. And I always think you can spend that time better like actually creating the business. So I would always try to have like the shortest amount of time spent on my fundraisers.
Okay. Kirsty.
Yeah, as you mentioned, we're already starting to see a little bit of that sort of refocus on fundamentals of businesses, and I think you always get that in as belts tighten slightly. And that's looking at sort of making sure the business has those core fundamentals there, but also I think of refocusing again on management teams that don't just know how to grow at all costs, but know how to sort of weather bumpy storms and sort of plan and forecast on a slightly longer term. So already sort of starting to see people refocused on that, which is good.
No, I like that trend as well. And I see that the timer shows 000, so we're closing the stage. But I like the closing kind of summary words. It's like I feel like this is future of fundraising might actually be more towards sustainability and maybe not, we might kill the unicorn, I don't know, valuations, who knows. But I'm happy for it because I think that's better for the long term. So thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks.
Kirsty, thank you, Maximilian, and Christian.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, folks. I agree. I think there are far too many unicorns. We need to kill some unicorns, right? I mean, one of the articles I wrote was cooking with unicorns. All right, look, I got 2 T-shirts left. Who wants them? What? That is enthusiasm. One more. One more, and phew, there it is. Ladies and gentlemen, I said at the beginning of the day that we were going to learn a lot of things. I hope you learned a lot of things. My biggest takeaway, all right, to founders in the room, do you know the expression, fake it till you make it? Well, I am living proof. This is the first stage and event I have ever emceed, and apparently I've done an okay job. Hopefully, that's your cue to applaud. There you go. There it is. So, without further ado, I'm going to get the heck off this stage. There's still content happening over on the less important stage, but my name is Dan Taylor, yours is not, and I am out of here. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.